So, welcome to Your Show. If you don't know who I am, my name is James. Recently left my home country of the UK, currently in Poland, enjoying time here, and in which next year we move to Southeast Asia so we can really look at people's struggle, people in poverty, local communities that have nothing but still have simplistic happiness. So, as we know, if you're from the UK, you're probably watching this. Poverty is going to be on the rise. Inflation's here now, so all the middle class are going to suffer. The poorer people are going to suffer even more. So, I came across this video, right, around child poverty in the UK. If you don't know who I am, I worked everything from children, elderly, end of life, autism. And then, before I left England during COVID, I ended up working in suicide prevention and drug and alcohol abuse. Part of that umbrella of people's poor mental health and struggle, it affected children. You had mothers come in that were heroin users, bringing their kids. There was many things about it, but I'm very passionate about, oh, hi, whoever's came in, that's very random on such a small channel. Um, so, with the inflation here now, it's only the poor are going to struggle, right? Realistically, now, we can all look to whether it's the prices going up, we can point blame at certain people. In the end, like it was statistically proven that the rich people are going to be making an extra, 1,500 a month, whereas those lower class people might get 50 quid extra a month. It's not enough to live, and there's still that massive divide. If you look at other countries such as India, some of the more third world countries where you have the rich live obviously and comfortably, and you have the poor people living in slums. I kind of feel like in America and in the UK, maybe in 50 years, maybe in 100 years, that divide is going to become bigger and bigger. And we're at a point where we sort of have a choice of what to do. I'm not on about being like Sri Lanka or whatever and fighting against Iran currently in mass protests. People are snapping across the world and they're wanting to take action on powers. So let's keep it simple. I thought we'd watch this together, pause and just talk through it because it's really sad, but it's real. And a lot of us like to be distracted by happy, shiny things and not look to real world problems. So let's watch this together. As I paint this orangutan, that you'll see in a different video.
I was really, really worried that we weren't going to get any food and we was going to die. We could be rich at some point and then everything go downhill and then you might have to go to school. It should be like this. All people should have food.
On what that kid just said. Like even rich people, you might be living comfortably now, but it might hit you one day. Something might happen that might strip your life. I had my life stripped away completely and having to restart, build back my mental health, which is an ongoing thing. If anyone has suffered, obviously you know you're gonna have to maintain good mental health. So going to that, I worked in food banks in Oxford and London. I worked with the homeless and recommending food banks. It's not enough. Realistically, you shouldn't need food banks. I get it, there's a good asset, it's great to have because we have this problem, but we shouldn't have the problem, shouldn't need the food banks. What I would love to do when I go to Cambodia next year is to drag the rich fuckers, not even about being rich, I'm not against capitalism and stuff like that, but there has to be a limit. If there's poverty, if there's 500 to 700 kids a day dying of malnutrition, there has to be a limit to wealth if there is no limit to poverty, right? So I'd love to drag these rich people, bring them into the poor, to live with like the poorest family on the planet and allow them to be humbled.
As politicians continue to debate the reasons behind the rise in food banks, we asked children experiencing food poverty to tell us what it feels like when the cupboards are bare.
Things have been going off the path, flying off.
It's just snowballed into a big colossal wreck of horrible things.
The cupboards are sometimes empty and we've been struggling a bit to get food and we've been struggling quite a lot actually. You lot out there have all heard about food banks, breakfast club and kids not eating properly, but you don't know what it's like. Well, if you keep watching, we'll tell you. I'm 8.5 years old.
A report released by Oxfam has revealed that over 20 million free meals were provided last year to families like Rosie's.
1, 2.
Rosie and her 13-year-old sister Becky live with their mum in Hull.
Oh, in Hull.
It will be my best.
So I lived in Hull for a little while. I ended up working with adult autism. Hull Town Centre, if you're from Hull, please comment below, whatever. Hull Town Centre was almost half abandoned. The people I met, some of the staff members that I worked with actually did cocaine on shift. Myself, never touched drugs, thank fuck. But, yeah, very weird place. Definitely struggling.
3 months and 4 days. And I'm just glad I'm not a baby no more because I was one moody baby. I wasn't very happy at all. A few months ago, we was running out of food and my mum had no money. There was like no cereals at all or any bread for toast and crumpets and cereals, so I had to go to breakfast club.
Children arriving at school hungry has become such a high-profile issue in the last few years that the National Association of Head Teachers has called on the government to give free breakfasts to all kids getting free school meals.
The breakfast club I go to at church, I really like it there. because
Here's another
it's
question.
free breakfast.
Why is it that everything that is meant to be like a good aid, right, across the world, why is it always religion based? Why is it there's a Christian breakfast clubs, and I'm sure it's the same across the world, why is it all religious based? To be honest, if the government are paying mass money to religion in order to maintain this whole community and hope, and to be honest, I remember one overly wealthy guy said that religion was just there for the poor. The rich people don't need religion. They understand people's mindsets and how you can feed off the poor. But religion gives them a bit of hope. It gives them a focus point, like many other topics. So,
And there's lots of my friends that go there. The breakfast is real nice, there's enough to feed everyone. And you can play games.
Since the recession began, over 1,000 breakfast clubs have been started, and some local authorities like Blackpool are now providing breakfast for all primary age children. The club Rosie attends in Hull is run by Youth for Christ.
Not that
Youth for Christ.
if some mums can't feed their children, then they can send the children here for the morning.
So that's really helpful.
Yep, really helpful. Come on, my bottom lives now with a word out of food. That tastes nice. It's the ginger one. Not milk. No, it's not milk.
Unemployment rates in Hull are amongst the highest in the country. Rosie's mum, Susan, has been unable to get a job and is relying on benefits to pay the bills.
Sometimes struggling to know where the next meal's coming from.
Housing benefit covers part of the family's rent, but after paying the rest, Susan is left with around £90. After gas, electric, water and phone bills, she sometimes has as little as £25 to feed herself and the children for a week.
It's been difficult. I mean, sometimes when we've sold our own necklaces and family items, you can't get those things back. It's like selling memories, it's just not right.
Thank you.
The children need things. It's called, it's winter and benefits. I can't afford to feed the kids and heat the house.
Thanks, Mummy, for putting it on.
More than half of all referrals to food banks last year were because families were struggling to manage on benefits.
How am I supposed to make them stronger for the future if I'm not giving them the right vitamin content? the right amount of milk, the right amount of.
I remember one of the first videos on this channel was when I was working with the homeless. The charity I was with and British military, we did a big meal, big feast for Christmas. I dressed up as Santa, we gave out some backpacks full of goodies. I remember at that event, a couple of families turned out, a couple of kids. We're mixing these kids with, and I ain't judging them. In fact, I admire those that have to suffer and go through stress and recover. But these kids were around alcoholics, they were around people that were high on heroin or something. And it's very sad to see. I know it's nice to talk about the hope and that there is something, a food bank, that's great. No kid should have to go through it. And this is just in the UK. You got America that's worse. Then you got the undeveloped world that, like Somalia, is sickening.
Make the right amount of vegetables.
Anyway,
When you have to buy
back to the
there's
orangutan.
there's no enjoyment cooking it. There's no enjoyment eating it. It's set meals for set days and set amounts. You can't have any more milk tonight, girls, because that is all we've got. You can't have any more bread tonight because we need 2 slices tomorrow.
Right, where are we going to put these in? So stand up like that.
You can't have Sunday dinner, we're going to have mash and mince, not vegetables, not all the good things, you know, the five a day, the healthy lifestyle that everybody in the government is banging on about.
You see the armpits clearly.
You look like a
Comment below if you wish you was eating more healthy, but you know that the price of it is more expensive than to eat shit.
In May, 170 medical experts wrote an open letter in the Lancet condemning the rise in food poverty. They said that many families are not earning enough money to meet their most basic nutritional needs to maintain a healthy diet, and that the welfare system is increasingly failing to provide a robust last line of defense against hunger.
Typical.
Um,
Okay, I'm getting a call from Isa. A bit of drama here. Give me 1 sec. Okay, apologies for that. Here in Poland, as much joy as I've had here, meeting great people, normal stories, and teaching. There's also the dramas, and Isa's dealing with one of the dramas as we speak. Apologies. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Though the rise in food poverty predates the government's welfare reforms, those reforms have caused significant delays for some of those who suddenly find themselves dependent on benefits.
Do you want your jacket?
Naomi lives with her dad, Tom, and her brother, Dre, in Haverhill in Suffolk. Last September, Naomi was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh,
Her dad
poor
had a job
girl.
as a gardener in nearby
Fucking
Newmarket,
hell.
but he couldn't continue to work when Naomi was diagnosed.
Ready?
he loved his work. He loved doing it. And to think that I get to stop it because I was ill. I felt guilty for a while because I thought it was my fault, but then I thought, well, you can't help being ill, so. Yeah, the bank statement.
Something.
Because Tom has to look after Naomi, he can't apply for job seekers allowance, so the family is getting by on around £220 a week in benefits. With extra costs like transport to hospital because of Naomi's cancer, Tom's been struggling.
My ex wants a few quid. I'll speak to him later, let him know that eventually I will give him it back, just to assure him, but it makes me feel bad inside that I owe anyone money.
Right. Do it later.
I've got Squeetail Group and I'm in arrears with my garage payments at the moment and TV licence payments all behind. I've got them.
This guy just straight off the bat, I mean, maybe he's made bad financial choices, maybe there's another story to this, but from what we just heard, you know, daughter, cancer, struggle, borrowing, guilt, just the idea of guilt, not many people feeling, including myself at one point. But listen to the man's story, you know he's a good human, he's got a good soul, a good heart. Then we listen to 2 ton of BS stories on the news about someone wealthy, maybe some sort of agenda or trying to push some ideology that is ridiculous. Now, you could have Lizzo, a overweight singer. Again, don't care if she's overweight, care if she's a good person. But just by promoting this ideology, body positivity in the fat sense, she gets millions. This gentleman here, simply trying to survive with a daughter who has fucking leukemia. Guess what? You can struggle. You can struggle. I don't know. Tell me where our attentions are in life and if they're worthy of that.
We'll maybe try and get that scooter. It does worry you when you get letters saying that you could be taken to court and that they can repossess goods from your home. I could afford it at the time because I was working, I had a good job.
Those letters that you've given me, you
Yeah.
don't need to be worrying about that.
Right. There was a bit of a concern, as they said, about the court and collection
A bit
from the house.
threatening, yeah. Don't worry. If necessary, I can read for you. And with food, how are things going on that?
Yeah, it's all fairly difficult at the minute. When you don't know when it's coming and when it's not, you're a bit
Yeah, exactly.
wary of spending what you haven't got. But
Because you know, food
Yeah.
banks open every day.
okay.
You can certainly write a voucher so that you know that when you come home, there's food there for you and Joe and also for Naomi when she's home. Ooh. It's some food and what?
Yeah, nice one. See you later. Cheers.
Just one organisation that runs food banks, the Trussell Trust, has reported that it fed over 300,000 children last year.
Most of the stuff.
300,000 children. Myself and Isa, we used to get massive boxes of underwear and socks. We would bring them to one of the hostels that was open during COVID to get the homeless off the streets. When I would sit these down, I would come in later, do some work, whatever, and they'd be gone. People would need these things. It's a need for the very homeless. If you've got children, young people, how would you expect them to go on in life and be something better? Now, it's possible. People that struggle can sometimes end up amazing beings that grow. Their mindset is more open. They have more compassion. I love that. But if every child, 300,000 they said about going from food banks they've been feeding, do you reckon that all of them are going to break the cycle and learn to progress in a great human compassionate way? Or are they going to struggle as they get older because that's what they've been through and this routine of poverty continues?
It's tin stuff, but at least it keeps and you can use it for different things to make different things with.
Amazing, Dad.
Give you a sheet of how to use your stuff as well. It's like a day plan.
Like Rosie and Hum, Naomi's brother Dre goes to breakfast club at school, so it's the weekends and school holidays that are particularly hard.
I always have breakfast at school and I have 3 lunches. And then when I get home on Friday, the weekends, sometimes if I don't have any food, well, I can have little bits of food every now and then when there's food here, but often, there was what we got.
If it's on offer, when I have got some money, we'll have like a meat meals a treat a week, like a bit of pork or a joint or something, and then try and cut that in half and freeze
Not a
half
joint
and
there, lad.
put the other
Oh, you
half
kids.
another time. But yeah, I do find that is one of the things that you definitely struggle to buy all benefits, if you like.
It's not very nice when you're hungry.
Okay, let's get some more paint on.
You feel like eating and there's not much there. And, doesn't feel very nice.
There's very little in the fridge. And some apples we've got down there that my mum brought down for us. But as for fresh perishables, we don't do well in that respect.
In the British Medical Journal, experts recently highlighted that the number of malnutrition cases in England has almost doubled in 5 years. They said, this has all the signs of a public health emergency that could go unrecognised until it's too late. Adding, malnutrition in children is particularly worrying because exposures during sensitive periods can have lifelong effects. But it's not just those on benefits who are struggling. According to the Trussell Trust, another major reason for families seeking food aid is low pay.
Shut up, you Casey.
2 out of 3 children growing up below the poverty line live in families where at least one adult is working.
My name's Cara and I'm from London and I'm 9 years old. I used to live in Fulham, but now I live in Acton because I started staying with my nan.
Cara's mum has been hospitalised with a long-term illness, so she now lives with her nan, Lucy. Lucy used to work full-time as a cook, but looking after Cara means she's had to go to a 0 hours contract. So while some weeks she may have 30 hours work or more, other weeks she'll have none. As a result, money is very tight.
There are people out there starving, not only like in Africa and places like that, but in where you're actually living now.
That's my
You
girl.
skip a meal, you kind of
That's my girl. Yeah, it's incredibly sad. I don't know how Houses of Parliament in the UK. I think there was an open query on how much money they spent on biscuits a year for Houses of Parliament. It was over 20k a year. Now, obviously, you're more than a family household, but still, 20k. Maybe find a way of earning extra money that's legit and not going to affect the economy, obviously, unlike America. Bring your own biscuits. Bring your own biscuits. But for the girl sort of shows, and I've always loved this, is those that struggled in life, those that have gone through, it could be in mental darkness and then recovered, those that have lived in rough conditions, got out of it, and now have more compassion for people, whereas, this is just stereotyping, those that lived in comfort or even wealth, those that have grown up with it, and then find happiness in materialistic options and drugs and escaping the normal world. Now I know these escapes, like when I was working with homeless, obviously they don't want to live this life, they don't like being fucking homeless, so I'm going to do some drugs. But it's also the same at the top. If you're that comfortable in life and you have nothing else, you don't have to survive, you don't have to work, you don't have to stress, so you end up finding an escape. But this girl, amazing.
get like this sore feeling. Like sometimes you just feel, ooh, like it's like a really biting feeling, like something's biting you, and it's like, oh, I wish there was something there to eat, but there's nothing there, so you just have to kind of like relax and like watch telly and just like try and calm down, because if you're like tense and if you're like a bit angry, it's gonna get worse.
Pascalia to supermotor OPH 936 góra. Lepiej nawadnia i przyspiesza spalanie tkanki tłuszczowej.
Powódź znisły zapachem egzotycznych kwiatów i mocą olejków botanicznych. Lux Botanicals.
It's not just people on benefits that are having it hard. I work and I could earn a fortune, but because of my circumstances with my granddaughter, I'm unable to do that. With our 0 hours, as they call it, you don't know when you're going to be working and you're not going to be working.
Has anyone here been on a 0-hour contract? I did once when I studied health and social care, and I ended up doing domiciliary care, driving the motorbike, pulling up to these old people's homes. The job, which was absolutely sickening, was to be there for 20-30 minutes, give them the medication, get them a meal. Hey, you okay? You feeling good? Let's all act polite. And then you leave on to the next person, the next person. Became a number. Absolutely hated it. That was a 0-hour contract job. I did it for 2 weeks just because of how ridiculous it was. I remember getting a call in the evening saying, hey, if you're free this evening, can you go and check on these 3 clients? The turnover in these companies, Q1 Care, Reading is a company I work for, fuck them. So it was absolutely horrible, and the amount of money that they charge these elderly people to check in, my nan having it for a little while, realising how ridiculous it was, how low quality some of the staff members were. Shameful, and that is in Great Britain.
She tries her best to get as much money as possible, but sometimes it's just not enough. So it must be really hard for her, because she has to work her butt off, and she still don't have any money. So yeah, I don't understand like why people that do work don't have enough money, and the people that don't work do have money. It's not alright.
So now, this is the actual
On
mix of
that
sorts of
note,
figures.
On that note, why do people that don't work have more money than those that work? My favourite story for this situation that I had to deal with, there was a gentleman, a homeless gentleman, homeless for many, many, many years. He had a little bit of a weak leg, so he would always have a little crotch. He'd always walk around. He didn't need to, but he'd always walk around with his little crotch. Crutch, not his crotch, not his crotch, his crutch. So he would always work around with his crutch. He already got basic benefits in the UK. It's what, 350, 400 quid a month, or 200, whatever. Right? He got these benefits. He already lived in a hostel. You don't pay rent. You don't pay food. So you have £200 a month. Anything you want. Extra money, right? You want to buy cigarettes for him, bit of alcohol, bit of cocaine. Happy days. Then he asked for a personal independent payment, which is PIP. So I had to do this PIP form with him. Then he tells me, oh, it's like an extra 600 quid or more, extra payment. So now I'm taking home 800 quid. I don't pay rent. I don't pay any tax. I don't work. I don't even have to pay for food because my stupid wannabe good guy ass was going to a Pret a Manager in Oxford Town Centre with like a delivery bag on my back and then two big shopping bags. So literally doing the farmer's walk with as many leftover bagels and little bits and bobs for these homeless people of Oxford. Now, I'm not saying that all of them shouldn't be able to get out. People struggle, people get low mentally. You should always show compassion. I believe that. I will continue to do that. But also, when this one single gentleman we're talking about, had £800 a month of extra money, myself and probably you, well, after you've paid your bills, you've paid your insurance, you've looked after those that you love, you might be left with 50 quid, if you're lucky, more, as they're saying here. So yeah, the whole difference of people on benefits and the people that work, the real struggle of England is very sad. Very sad.
With her new working contract making it impossible to budget from
His
week to week,
crotch.
Lucy has spent the last of her food money on ingredients for Caribbean savouries to sell to local market. It's a gamble to help make enough money to buy food for next week.
To wake up at like 6 o'clock and start cooking all from scratch. And I wake up about 7 to help her do the dumplings and the salt fritters.
The last tin tomato. I've not a penny now. So whatever I make today, it's going to fill the cupboards and fill what I can buy, milk and things like that. Basically just keeping us going through the week. And off to market we're going to go.
You can't just sit there and expect money to come to your door. You don't have like a tree in the back garden just growing money. So you have to take money very seriously. Like if you're working, you don't have to depend on other people. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, but you get there.
I've got to start selling now. Can we go rice and beef chicken, eating or takeout? Do you have to have farm from Adam? When the English used to go to the Caribbean, they used to bring all their salted cod, and then we took it and made it our own.
Some of that Caribbean food. I forgot what it's called, but I was given this Jamaican aphrodisiac drink. I forgot what it's called. Heavenly. Oof.
£30 on the gas for the week. Then I've got to pay for car and breakfast club. So I am going to have to go down to the food bank. And I've just been told from very sad news that I won't be needed here because they're going to try and do their own food. Everybody's fighting for a little shop to try and make a living. Everyone's struggling the same as we are. But we can cross our fingers.
Can you get out of my bracelet box? because they're my bracelets and I don't want you touching them.
What that you never wear.
I don't care if I don't wear them, I don't give you a right to touch them.
Don't touch the box.
No, you can't, get off. Rosie,
I ain't touching it.
I don't care, get off.
Was anyone else like that with their siblings? I was.
Uh-huh.
Rosie and Becky's mum, Susan, has recently been unable to find work.
My mum's trained as a cook. She spent a lot of time around chefs and, you know, Korean chefs and stuff like that. So she knows quite a lot about cooking and she makes good food.
You can make a lot of good food out of practically nothing sometimes, but yeah, I don't eat myself some days. I would just eat the children's leftovers.
Struggling to make ends meet on benefits, Susan has resorted to desperate measures.
They've got clothes, they can have shoes, they can have good food. I can take them out for a meal, we can have a takeaway if they want one.
Susan has found a way of making more money through an adult website. She describes it as being in the SERS.
I'm self-employed. I claim tax things and I claim benefits. And I do pay national insurance contributions. But if you can be self-employed doing laundry, why can't you be self-employed doing whatever you need to do in order to feed your kids? That's how I look at it.
So, sex work. And now I don't know if it's all class sex work, pornography, whatever you want to call it, okay? I found it interesting when COVID first started. I thought, damn, now I'll be honest, I was working. Like I was a private carer for a gentleman with MS who was wheelchair bound. So I worked with him. But as most people, I wanted more. I wanted to do more. So I did start an OnlyFans account. I did make money from it. Good money, actually, not just flexing. But it's sad the route that some people take for money and sex and sexualizing everything, getting your breast out and all that is easy money. Men want it, women can provide it. Sometimes the other way around. The gay community seem to love me on OnlyFans. But yeah, it's very sad that sometimes she may not want to do it, but now she knows it's an income. Hey, I need money. I'm going to do what I can for the kids. One of my favorite clients when I was working in homeless was this young girl. Ended up doing prostitution. And her biggest problem is that she couldn't love herself. So she ended up needing love from other people. Ended up quite nasty. But it's sad what people do to get what they feel they need, or in some cases, what they actually need.
There's lots of ladies out there doing it. I'm not ashamed, and I don't feel disgraced. I don't feel happy all the time when I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, why would I feel dirty and horrible and nasty and not do what I do in order to give my children better things?
That probably would happen in there.
No! Okay. Oh, God, that stinks! That's the drains!
It's about sacrifices. Sacrificing myself any way possible in order to do, because not just the things that they really need, but sometimes the things they want as well.
I sometimes get worried because I feel like someone's really going to hurt my mum or something. And I always wonder if things are going to go really wrong or really bad.
I chose to offer my services.
And she's Ginger, the poor girl.
It's my business. Nothing to do with anybody else. Don't care what anybody thinks. Because I feel in my heart of hearts, how can anybody ever look down their nose at me when all I'm doing is trying to support my children?
I would rather she did do it, but there's no jobs here. All's just an economic pit. I mean, it's V-shaped. You just all sink into the bottom until you can get a grip on the outside and crawl out yourself. You just got no hopes of getting out of it. I can't see anything getting better anytime soon.
Oh, yeah. No, this washing machine just flooded.
Heads up, would you take the copyright audio and video temporarily blocked because of this?
In London, with Christmas
Come on, YouTube, don't be a dick. Hull is a weird place. I remember going there, I talked to the locals like anywhere I go. I like to get to know people. People were on about how the fishing industry was taken, so the city became nothing. The UK years ago did make it a city of culture. They built like a nice aquarium. They do all these like fancy things, but don't actually deal with the real problems. It was quite a sad place. I'm glad that I left there. It wasn't really anything for me. I remember going for drinks first time. The stream has been temporarily blocked. What does that mean? Okay, I don't care. I remember first time going out with drinks with people, trying to socialise and meet new people, went for drinks. They ended up like in a bar in the open, sat there, snort their coke. And I'm not saying all people in Hull. I'm sure there's amazing people anywhere in the world, same as everywhere. Good people, bad people, lost people, and ego and greed and fucking selfishness. But yeah, it was very weird. It was a very weird place. It wasn't my cup of tea, to be brutally honest.
Cara's nan has also had a problem with a washing machine, an unexpected expense that has driven her to apply for a short-term loan.
Oh, hi. I came to you 2 weeks ago with regards to getting a loan. Oh, I can't do that. That's 50 quid. I can't do that. But then you guarantee I'll get it on the next day. But then that's going to leave me no money at all, so I hope it does go in the account at that time.
In my kitchen, we have a washing machine that wipes my face and a fridge that doesn't really work. It turns off, so then like it makes everything stink. And it's like, oh no, like there's no fresh food. It's all gone off.
They've approved the loan, but I've got to pay £25
Yeah, temporary blocked.
and then £25 for me to get
Okay.
the loan in my bank
Because
account.
this is now
So that's £50 I've got to go and fine.
simply ended, the live version.
A hot meal.
One more take on England and its poverty and that lot. When I was an end-of-life carer living with people in their homes until they passed away, amazing job for me. It opened my mind and my soul to death. And there is a beauty to passing on, as sad as it is for those left behind. But the Queen's passed recently and so many people went out, gave their effort, paid even a little bit of money for your train fare or whatever. You put a lot of effort into the Queen's passing. Every year there are thousands of people that die, elderly people that die of lack of heating and support over every winter. Nobody cared for them. There was no big ceremony. There wasn't multi-millions invested in their funeral or even for their care when they was alive. So this one is about...
And a chance.
Great, well done, Andy. There we go.
Lunch club in South Manchester, a hot meal and a chance to meet friends at the African Caribbean Care Group. This charity supports pensioners on low income, and demand for help has gone up by 40%.
It's not easy. But
I tried to call.
yeah.
Yvonne is in a wheelchair and relies on a team of carers. As her energy bills have risen, she's had to cut back on some home support.
Things are getting a bit tough. Can't afford it anymore. So I stopped that yesterday.
And that's physio to come in, is it, for you?
Yeah. £30, that's always a lot.
At the next table, I meet Lola, who's a full-time carer for Grace, who's in her 80s. Transport costs are their biggest challenge.
It's really expensive, so I think it's ridiculous.
What impact does it have on you two?
Well, from the bus fares or the taxis, it's raising a little bit higher.
Analysis shows that pensioners from Black and Asian communities are around twice as likely to be living in poverty as white pensioners. Dorothy is the CEO here, and Fizz for those suffering alone.
Comment below if you have any opinion on why that is. Why do twice as many Asian and Black people end up in poverty than white? Comment below.
From the government. You know, you hear people talking about fuel increases of £3,000. That is a significant burden on a lot of people. People need to know now how they're going to manage.
Inflation has now hit 9.4%.
This is of today, by the way.
Pension only increased by 3.1% this year.
It's estimated more than 2 million pensioners are living in poverty, the highest level since 2012. And older people aren't claiming all of the help they're entitled to. A third of pensioners on low incomes eligible for pension credit are still missing out. From January, the average household energy bill could surge above £4,200 a year, according to some forecasts. And for the retired, that's getting close to half of their annual state pension. On the South Coast, Janet retired in 2020, aged 66. But living on her own, with no savings, was tough, and she's now had to go back to work.
Hey. Comment below if you know me. Comment, please. Let me know who it is. Hello. If not, welcome to How You Shell. Hopefully you enjoy a bit of realistic discussion.
For food to live on. So that's how, you know, and that's allowing for the energy as it is at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's going to improve.
Campaigners warn the situation is fast becoming a national emergency.
If elderly people who are frail and often vulnerable can't afford to have enough heating or sufficient food, their lives will be at risk. You know, that they are extremely vulnerable to the cold, which is why I'm so concerned about the coming winter.
You're having a busy day, Stafford.
I am. It's not.
You know, that
This woman, just a quick point. Obviously, her job when she was there, the pensioner minister. Okay, great job. I'm sure you had the heart and the mind to try and do what you can for them, even though it was still shit. But I believe whenever someone talks about those with less, if you're going to talk about, you know, those, you know, they're going to suffer, these poor old people, you're probably going to have thousands of deaths and they'll be found in the fucking new year. Are you living in comfort? Are you living, because of that job where you were benefiting those around, are you living in, and when I say comfort, I don't just mean, hey, I live in this flat for free, I'm in Poland, I do painting. These are comforts. Yes, I'm on about a high level of comfort, much more than you could ever need. If you're up there above a certain pay grade living in comfort, don't talk about those living in poverty, literally in poverty. If you want to talk about some sort of shit, you live like an average person or lesser than an average person, then use that voice. I hate like when celebrities or shit hollow idols do big talks for poverty and Action Aid and all this stuff. Yeah, you go back to your mansion. Don't worry. Not saying she is, but if she is.
they are extremely vulnerable to the cold, which is why I'm so concerned about the coming winter.
You're having a busy day, Stafford.
I am. It's not very. Always busy on a Tuesday.
Back in the northwest, home-cooked meals are being delivered to hundreds of households.
Morning, sir. How are you doing, right?
Frederick's in his 80s. His ability to earn is long gone.
There you go. See how you.
Oh, looking at the camera.
Well, at my age, I'm 84 now, you know. Everything going here, well, yeah. I can't do anything about this. Pray to God and, you know, hope for the best.
The government has promised extra support worth hundreds of pounds each to help older people cope this winter. But right now, charities are having to step in like never before. Sarah Corker, ITV News.
Good lads. Okay. So, ITV, cheers. That's more or less it. I just want to run down a very quick recent update of poverty in the UK. I've always looked at the lowest of the low. The other day I was literally crying over Al Jazeera's piece on Somalia and the child death rate out there. And I don't know if there's going to be a fix for it. I think one day there's going to be a snap where those average people that are now being pushed lower and lower and lower have to now look where the money is. It doesn't matter if it's capitalism. I'm not a socialist. I don't believe we should all be on the same level. But you have to have a limit on each side. You don't have wealth up to a certain point if you have poverty below a certain point. It shouldn't exist, right? And I don't know when people are going to realise, do you only care or do you change your opinion on someone once you've gone through it? Or are you going to be preventive and make sure that you don't get to that point and maybe try and help other people to not get to that point? Otherwise, guys, that's How You Shell. Now I look back at it, it's quite negative, but it's all about doing good. Instead of buying at Starbucks today, I could spend a £5 there, or I can use that £5 for a local aid group, or if you want to do directly with a homeless, if you're comfortable doing that, don't just give money. Buy some food, buy a drink, give it to them. We all lose the idea of simplistic happiness, and the simplest form of happiness is to do good for other people. You do feel rewarded. So do it that way. Otherwise, take care. Come out, show. Cheers for watching, and much love. Bye.